Good morning, students. I hope you all are ready for your science class. As you all know, we have started chapter number 5, Separation of Substances. In the previous class, I told you why there is a need to separate component from a mixture. The first purpose is to obtain two different but useful component. Second, to remove non-useful component from the mixture. Third, to remove impurities or harmful components. And fourth, to group substances of different sizes. Now, as you all know, what is a component? The substance that is used to make a mixture is known as component, and we separate these component from the mixture for these following reasons. And also we discussed different methods of separation. Now the components cannot be separated from the mixture by using single method. There are different methods for different components depending upon the property of the component. For that we have discussed hand picking method, threshing, winnowing, sieving, and today we are going to discuss sedimentation, decantation, filtration, evaporation, and condensation. Now, you all know when the solid is dissolved in liquid, some solids get dissolved but some are not soluble. For example, if you take mud and water and make the solution of mud and water, mud will not dissolve in water. After some time, muddy water, what you will observe if you take a muddy water, after some time you will observe the mud is settled at the bottom of the beaker. So, sedimentation and decantation is the method for separating the solids that are not soluble in liquid. So, it is the process by which we can separate the insoluble heavy solid particles that settle down their own in a solution. As I had given you the example of muddy water, after some time mud get mud gets settled down at the bottom of the beaker, and you can separate the mud from water. Is it clear? So when the mud gets settled down at the bottom of the beaker, that process is sedimentation. That process is sedimentation. Now I will tell you, if you see this picture, in this picture, first picture we are having muddy water, and after some time you can see the mud is settled down at the bottom, and upper water is a clear water. It is semi-clear water, not clear but semi-clear water. So this is the first method by which you can separate insoluble solid from the liquid. Next is decantation. Now in the decantation, when the water is removed, the water which is above the solid particle, when the sediment gets settled at the bottom of the beaker, that is the solid particle, and the liquid which is above the sediment, when we pour into another beaker, That process is to separate the liquid from the sediment, and that process is known as decantation. As you can see in the picture, if you pour the liquid into another beaker, that means you have separated the insoluble solid and liquid by the process of decantation. So, sedimentation is the process in which insoluble heavy particles in a liquid are allowed to settle down at the bottom of a container, whereas decantation, water is removed. When the water is removed from the beaker, that process is called decantation. Next is where after decantation you get the water. That water is not clear, that still contains some mud particles in it. So as to obtain clear water, we opted for filtration method. Next method is filtration. Filtration can be used to separate components of a mixture of an insoluble solid as well as liquid. For that, we need a funnel, filter paper, and with the help of filter paper, you are able to get the clear water, because the water that you are going to filter that still contain mud particles that will be settled down in the filter paper as residue, and the clear water that you are getting is in the form of filtrate. So I hope all the three methods are clear to you: sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. Now next is evaporation. Now this is methods are evaporation and condensation method is used when the solid gets dissolved in water and you got a solution of soluble solid in liquid. Now how you are going to separate the solution, that means two components from the solution that are miscible with each other. For example, if I take a salt water solution, salt is soluble in water. Now, if you get a salt solution, how you're going to separate salt from water again? This is by the method of evaporation. So evaporation is used in many ways to separate mixture of water into its vapor, and heat is evaporated by heating. So when you heat the salt solution, that solution is in water. That means salt is dissolved in water, and when you heat that solution, water get evaporated and at the bottom salt will be there. So this is how you can separate salt and water from salt water solution. So it is the process of converting water into water vapor is called evaporation. Now next we are going to discuss about condensation. It is the process of converting vapors back into liquid form again. The process of converting water vapor into liquid again is called condensation. Now, use of condensation method is basically is for steaming clothes, steam cleaning, and blistering paint of walls easily, better than scrapping. Now I hope all the 5 methods are clear to everyone, that you can separate insoluble solid from liquid by the process of sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. And also methods we discussed where we can separate soluble solid from liquids. The solids that are soluble in water are also separated by the process of evaporation and condensation. Now, next is loading. Loading is the process which speed up the sedimentation. In fact, loading is a faster process as compared to sedimentation. Loading increase the rate of sedimentation. It is done by adding a chemical to the solution, which increases the process of which increases the rate of sedimentation. I hope today's lecture is clear to you and all the 5 methods that we have discussed for the separation of components from the mixture is clear. So that's all for today. Have a nice day and read the following topics from your book. Thank you.